The Deacon's masterpiece are the One Hoss Shay by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Have you heard of the wonderful One Hoss Shay that was built in such a logical way? It ran 100 years to a day, and then of a sudden it but stay. I'll tell you what happened without delay. Scaring the parson into fits, frightening people out of their wits. Have you heard of what that I say? 1755. Gorgius Secundus was then alive, snuffy old drone from the German hive. That was the year when Lisbon town saw the earth open and gulp her down, and Braddock's army was done so brown, left without a scalp to its crown. It was on the terrible earthquake day that the Deacon finished the One Hoss Shay, now in building of chases. I will tell you what, there is always somewhere a weakest spot, in hub, tire, below, in spring or thill, in panel or crossbar, or floor or sill, in screw, bolt, throw brace, lurking still. Find it somewhere, you must and will, above or below, or within or without, and that's the reason beyond a doubt. A chase breaks down, but doesn't wear out. But the Deacon swore, as deacons do, with an I do vum, or an I tell you, he would build one Shay to beat the town and the county and all the country round. It should be so built that it couldn't break down. For, said the Deacon, 'tis mighty plain that the weakest places must stand the strain, and the way to fix it, as I maintain, is only just to make that place as strong as the rest. So the Deacon inquired of the village folk where he could find the strongest oak that couldn't be split, nor bend, nor broke. That was for the spokes, and floor, and sills. He sent for the lancewood to make the thills. The crossbars were ash for the straightest trees, the panels of whitewood that cuts like cheese, but last like iron for things like these. The hubs of logs from settlers' alum, last of its timber, they couldn't sell 'em. Never an axe had seen their chips, and the wedges flew from between their lips. Their blunt ends frizzled like celery tips. Step and prop iron, bolt and screw, spring tile axle, and linchpin too. Steel of the finest, bright and blue. Thoroughbrace bison skin, thick and wide. Boot top dasher from tough old hide. Found in the pit when the old tanner died. That was the way he put her through. There, said the Deacon, now she'll do. Do, I tell you, I rather guess. She was a wonder, and nothing less. Colts grew horses, beards turned gray. Deacons and deaconesses dropped away. Children and grandchildren, where were they? But there stood the stout old One Hoss Shay, as fresh as on Lisbon earthquake day. 1800 it came and found the Deacon's masterpiece, strong and sound. 1800 increased by 10. Handsome carriage, they called it then. 1820 came, running as usual, much the same. 30 and 40 at last arrive, and then come 50 and 55. Little of all we value here wakes on the morn of its 100th year, without both feeling and looking queer, and in fact there's nothing that keeps its youth, so far as I know, but a tree and truth. This is a moral that runs at large. Take it, you're welcome, no extra charge. 1st of November, the earthquake day. There are traces of age in the one hoss Shay, a general flavor of mild decay, but nothing local as one may say. There couldn't be, for the Deacon's art had made it so like in every part that there wasn't a chance for one to start, for the wheels were just as strong as the thills, and the floor was just as strong as the sills, and the panels just as strong as the floor, and the whippletree neither less nor more, and the back crossbar as strong as the fore, and spring and axle and hub and core. Encore, and yet, as a whole, it has passed a doubt. In another hour, it will be worn out. 1st of November, 55, this morning, the parson takes a drive. Now, small boys, get out of the way. Here comes the wonderful one-hoss Shay, drawn by a rat-tailed, ewe-necked bay. "Hut up," said the parson. Off went they. The parson was working his Sunday's text, had got to fifthly, and stopped perplexed. At what? The Moses was coming next. All at once the horse stood still, close by the meetin' house on the hill. First a shiver and then a thrill. Then something decidedly like a spill, and the parson was sitting up on a rock at 9:30 by the meetin' house clock, just the hour of the earthquake shock. What do you think the parson found when he got up and stared around? The poor old chaise in a heap or mound, as if it had been to the mill and ground. You see, of course, if you're not a dunce, how it went to pieces all at once, and nothing first, just as bubbles do when they burst. End of the wonderful one-hoss Shay. Logic is logic. That's all I'll say. And speaking of Moses, one of the things that we find is that in the Quran there are 555 verses regarding Moses. And when you're giving sermons, naming important figures is certainly important. Although you can skip over the mention of the prophets and, give your point. But, as far as making that, do something, do it well, and the quality of things being made by the machines is not necessarily increasing. Some of it's more precise, but it doesn't have the art that it used to, and often doesn't last as long.